to this video where we're going to be exploring the live feature inside PT Distinction. Now, one of the things we want to do as coaches is make sure that our clients don't feel overwhelmed, and we don't want to give them too much information too quickly. So in order to help that, what we want to do is drip feed that content out to them. And the way we do that inside PT Distinction is using the live feature. So let's go and take a look exactly how this works inside the software. So here we are inside a PT Distinction account. And what I've done is gone straight over to a client dashboard. Now in the client dashboard, we have three tabs at the top: our activity, our schedule, and our setup. Now the area we're going to focus on here is our setup, because what we're going to be doing is looking at how to drip feed content out to our clients. All I mean by drip feed is we're going to allow a client to see a certain amount of content. And after a certain amount of time has passed, then some new content will appear inside their account automatically. That's what effectively drip feeding is. We're going to go and set this up inside PT Distinction. Now, before we do that, I want to talk about the different types of content and things we can set up inside a client dashboard. So down here in the setup area, we have programs, assessments, coaching, tracking, and forms. I tend to class programs, assessments, coaching, and forms as types of content that we can actually add in. Now, we also have this other option here, which is tracking. This is more like a feature that we can switch on and off for a client. Now, I'm going to explore both of these in this video. So first of all, let's take a look at the content, because this is more than likely what we want to drip feed out to our clients. Now, you can drip feed any type of content out, whether that's programs, assessments, coaching, or forms. So let's just use the coaching to start off with, because it's quite a simple way to show how this works. So we're going to head up to the green add button. This is how we add any type of content into a PT Distinction account. And we're going to head down to coaching for this example, and we'll use a text document. So at the bottom of this text document, just like any type of content that we add into a client dashboard, we're going to have these three options: inactive, live, or set date to go live. I want to quickly explain what live means. Live means that when a client logs into their PT Distinction account, now whether that's through the PT Distinction app, through your custom branded app, through the mini site, or through your website integration, as long as that piece of content is live for them, they can see it, or they can interact with it if it's interactive content such as a program or a form or something like that. So live basically means they can see it. Now the advantage of this is that you can actually select inactive and put this item into their account, and it means you can see it as a coach, you can interact with it, but your client can't. So that's the difference between inactive and live. We also have the option over here to set a date for something to go live in the future. This effectively allows us to drip feed out content to our client. So if I click on here, you can see we can choose a date for that particular item to go live. So let's just give this a go. I'm going to use this as our first document. I'm going to click test. We're going to go and add this in as a live document and click save. Now, whenever we add something into PT Distinction, it's going to ask us if we want to add this to the schedule or not. It's entirely up to you whether you want to do this. There's a couple of important things you need to remember. The way you schedule stuff is different to how you make things live or not. They are not inclusive of each other. They are two completely different things. So if you was to add an item into their account and it is live, and they use then to put it on the schedule, if you was to schedule this for in a week's time, if the client was to go to the coaching area, they would still see that particular item that you've added in, but they won't get a reminder to go and look at it until a week's time. Likewise, if you flip reverse that, if I was to set an item inside the client's account to be live in a week's time, but I was to add it to the schedule today, the client would not see it on the schedule because it's not live. And also if they went to the coaching area, they would not actually see it. So I want to give you an example of this now. So I'm actually going to add this to the schedule. So I'm going to put this in on today's date, click add and click OK. So that's now on the schedule. So it's both on the schedule here and it is also live in here, as you can see. But let's go and add in another item. So I'm going to use a coaching item again, text document, and we're going to call this one test 2. This time I'm going to set this date to go live. I'm going to do this on the 12th, so in a week's time, and click save. I'm also going to add this to the schedule here. Now, if I click yes, if I was to go and put this in on the 12th, that means the client sees that now on the schedule. If we're going to take a look at that, they would actually see it on the 12th, but they're not going to see this until they get to the 12th. So if they was to log in on, say, the Friday, they would still not see this. However, when they log in on the Saturday, they will see this on the schedule. And that's all because it's live or not. But if this was over here, for example, and the client gets to Tuesday, they would still not see this because in the setup area, this item is not live yet. Now, we can actually change this for any item. We can edit it at any point for a client by clicking the drop-down menu and just selecting scheduling from here. And we can change this date to whatever date and time that we want to. We can also delete it from here as well if we like to do that. But again, bear in mind, if you delete something from the schedule, it doesn't change anything down here. Likewise, if you move things around on the schedule, it won't change anything in terms of the live date. Like I said before, these things aren't connected. So if you do one, you need to think about if you need to do something with the other. So it's an important thing to remember when it comes to making things live or not. So what are some of the things you can actually do with live items inside PT Distinction? Well, one of the obvious ones, as you can kind of see on the screen now, is to drip feed out content, which means you can have content coming out on one day and then another day have other content going out and so on and so on and so on. You can do this both with coaching content, but you can also do this with programs as well. So this means if you want to give clients, for example, access to the first 4 weeks of programs, you can set that up and then you can actually make it live for the client to see. But you can then build the next set of programs for them. Maybe that's weeks 5 to 8. But you can set it up so that will automatically go live for them in 5 weeks' time. So an example, that would be to click the green add button, hit programs. I'm just going to pull from a template here for this example. And I'm going to call this weeks 1 to 3. And this one I'm going to make live. Click save. And at this point, again, I can add this to the schedule if I want to. Again, you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm going to do it for this example, though, because I want to demonstrate how this will look from a client's point of view. So I can go in here now and add in my workouts based on the date. So I'm going to start Monday the 7th. I'm going to go for 3 p.m. I'm going to repeat that every week, for the next 3 weeks and add that in for our client. I can put in any progressions if I wish to in here. And I'm going to keep repeating this process here with a day's rest in between. And the final one, so this one's going to be on the 11th, day's rest in between. So now these are all scheduled out for my client. I can see them drip feeding out here all the way up to the 25th of March. So now if a client was to log in, they can go on the schedule and they'll be able to go over the next 3 weeks and they'll be able to see all those items on the schedule if they want to. And they can also head into the programs area, where they'll actually be able to see that workout that is actually live for the client. Now, if I was to go down here and switch that to not live, the client would no longer see this workout in here, and they'll no longer see it on the schedule, even though you've actually added it into the schedule for them already. Now, this is particularly useful if you want to edit and make changes to workouts. If you want to build workouts for a client, but you don't want to see a half-saved workout, when you're building them, what you can actually do is build them in a not live state, and then you can switch them to live whenever you want them to actually go and see that particular workout program. Now, the other option is to build out more into the future as well. So we can click add, we can go to programs, we can add a second one in. Again, I'm going to pull from templates here and we'll do weeks 4 to 6. But this time though, I'm going to set a date for it to go live in the future. I can then pick out a date in the future in, say, 4 weeks time. So 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We're going to be down here, the 28th. Click save. And at this point again, I don't have to schedule it if I don't want to, but I will do for this example. I'm going to click schedule and I'm going to go in here and schedule this out for the 28th because that's when we're going to start. I'm going to do 3 p.m. again. And we can repeat that process just like we did before every week for the next 3 weeks. I'm going to add that in. This time I've got 4 workouts, so I'm going to do the 29th. And then I'm going to do the day's rest in between. We'll do the 31st. And then we're going to move on to another month here. So we're going to go into the next month and just drop that in on the 1st and add that in. So now these are also all scheduled out for a client. We can add in the progressions, anything else we want to put in. But the client won't be able to see it. Even though it's on the schedule, you can. The client can't see it because it's not actually live at the moment. So if we give that a refresh, we're able to see the workouts. There you go. You can see it's drip feeding out. So I can build this out as much as I want to. And the advantages here, once I've built them out, I can put them in. And based on the results from this workout here, I can go in and tweak this before the actual workout goes live for the client for them to see. But I can pre-build all this stuff out in advance for the client. Now, this is exactly the same whether you're doing assessments, whether you're doing coaching, or whether you're doing forms, working exactly the same way. There's also some other things you can do with live features that are particularly useful. One of them is in the coaching area, and it's actually using the text documents. Now, we've already talked about the advantage of drip feeding out content that kind of lets your client absorb information more slowly over time rather than being overwhelmed by too much information. Very, very positive thing when it comes to online training. But you can use these live features to help you as well as a coach. So, for example, if you want to do check-ins with your clients, maybe you're doing coaching calls with your clients, maybe you want to just make some notes for that particular client after that coaching call with them, you can actually use this live feature and these text documents. So, for example, I can click add here, I can click on the coaching and text, and maybe I've had a call on a particular day. So maybe it's going to be on the 5th, like today. So I could type in coaching call, notes, and then inside here, I could put in the date, so 05, 03, 22. I can write any notes on my call in here, and then I can just click inactive. And that means the client will never be able to see that. I can then click save, and I can then go and add that to the schedule on today's date. So now basically what I have is a reference of all the calls or check-ins or whatever I've done for that particular client on the schedule for them, but also inside the coaching area for me to find and go through. I can read my notes from that call, but the client can't actually see that. So this stuff is really, really useful. It also means as well that if you want to refer back to that for your client and you're doing a coaching call with them, you can simply switch it on so they can even have a look at those old notes if you want to. There's also other benefits you can do with this as well, is let's say you want to set calorie targets for your clients. So if you want to do that, you might want to set calorie targets using a coaching document, again, just like this, and using the text document. This means you can actually have this set up inside their account, and you can go and add it in, just like we're doing here. So let's say cow targets. The information you can put inside here, whatever targets you want to put in, for proteins, carbs, whatever you want to put inside there. And you can have this inactive and have it saved. And that means whenever you get round to actually wanting to set the targets for them, you can come inside here, you can make an edit, and then you can make it live for them to go and actually see it. So you might be thinking, looking at all this now, well, that's obviously a lot to set up for every single client. Is there a way we can actually make this a bit quicker and easier? Well, yes, there is. We can do exactly the same thing inside groups. Now, the advantage of groups means we can actually drip feed this content out using the days after they've joined that group, instead of using date like we're doing here. So what I want to do now is go and take a look at how you can set up some different groups. So I'm going to go to the search bar at the top. I want to show you some different ones. So let's look at some content groups first. So I'm going to type in our coaching content. I'm going to go into this coaching content group here, and I'm going to go into the setup. So in the setup section here in the coaching area, you can see we have loads of content that's drip feeding out for this 12-week program, some videos and some coaching content, everything like that. And down this side here, you can see we actually have a days after joining option. So instead of using date, we can use days. Now, when you're adding content into a group, if you click the green add button again, we use coaching again as an example, you have similar options to what you had before. So we have inactive. This means exactly the same thing. When this content is copied over into a client's account from this group, then it's inactive. They can't see it. We then have live on copying to client. And this copying to client is the important thing to remember when it comes to groups, especially if you're not familiar with groups inside PT Distinction. What groups effectively are superpowered templates. It means anything we set up inside that group, when a client is added to that group, that content inside it, the tracking, the scheduling, the emails, the messages, in fact, anything you set up is copied over into the client's account. Now, once it's copied into the client's account, you can edit it and change it and do whatever you want with it. But until that point, it's just inside the group. So inside that group, we can decide when a client is added to, when that content is copied over, we can decide on what status we want it to be, and whether it's inactive or whether it's live as soon as it's copied over. We can also set that content to go live after a particular date. But the important thing to remember when it comes to setting things live after a date for inside groups is that if that date is already passed, when it is copied into the client's account, it will automatically be live because that date is already passed. So because of that, we have this option here, which is set time after joining group to go live. So based on when a client joins a group, this will allow that content to drip feed out to them. So let's say a client joins a group today. Today will be day 0. If I wanted them to see that content tomorrow, I would set this to 1 day after joining. If I wanted them to see it in a week's time, I could maybe put it 7 days after joining. So depending when I want to see it, will depend on what day I put inside here. And you can see that in action just down here. Now you can do exactly the same thing with workouts as well. If we go and take a look at some workout groups, let's take a look at, let's do a 3-day split beginner home. We go to setup. Inside here, you can see we have our program strip feeding out to our clients, and we also have it on the schedule as well. So this is already pre-set up with all the progressions in. And again, I've got an extra training video on this over on the blog if you want to see how to set this kind of stuff up. So you can set up some superpower templates to deliver progressive programs to your clients literally in seconds. So if you want to check that out, just let us know in the comments around this video, and I'll send you over the link. Now, so you can get it set up like this, again, drip feeding that content out to them. You can also do this with things like forms, doing check-ins, and that kind of thing. So let's go and take a look at a weekly check-in. So inside here, we have our weekly check-in group. If we head over to the setup, we've done exactly the same thing with the forms on here. We actually have a form going out each week. This actually allows us to see what week our client is in as well. Your client can see it and we can see it. This is on the schedule for them as well, as you can see here for each week. And also it's drip feeding out for them as well. So this is very clearly going to show you when to check in with a client, what week they're actually inside your program. It's going to make it so much easier for your client and for you to manage. So again, we can use this live feature to help organize and manage our clients when it comes to doing check-ins. So lots of cool things we can do with this. What I want to do though is head back over to our test client that we had before and actually utilize some of these groups with this client and show you kind of how that works. So the moment inside here, we have these workouts in. There's a copied from group section here, and we can see this piece of content is not copied from any group. Likewise, over here as well, this content is not copied from any group. However, if we go up to the group section at the top, click add group, hit the drop down menu, I can add in any of the groups that I've got set up. So let's take a look at that coaching content group. I'm going to add that in now straight away. Click OK. You can see here it's going to copy the content over. So now that content is being copied over into the account. It's going to take all that information based on the number of days after being added to that group, and it's going to work out what the date should be down here. So we can see this new content's been added in. We can see what group it's been copied from, and we can see now it's got the new dates on here. Because as I mentioned before, it's like content's being copied over. So the software is going to, okay, after X number of days, this is going to go live. So that date is going to be this particular date. So once it's copied over, you can actually change and edit any of this. You can change these live dates just like we did previously when we was doing it with the content that wasn't from groups. Because again, it's a copy. It's been copied over. We can do what we want with it all. So you can see here how this content is now drip feeding out to the client. Some of this is scheduled. Some of this isn't scheduled. We can do exactly the same thing here with the workouts. I can click on the groups, click add, hit my drop down menu, head down here and pick the workout program I want to do. Maybe that's going to be an advanced 4-day split. I can click add, click OK. And again, it's going to copy those groups over, all the scheduling, all the progressions, and it's going to drip feed them out using that live feature. So again, you can see that on here, what group they've been copied from and how that's actually moving over to them. We also talked about those calorie targets earlier. We did that demonstration down here where I said you could switch that live, but you can also include those into groups. So let's say that you want to copy content over that you've already pre-set up. We can have it set so it goes live at a future date, or we can have it so it's just not live. So when it copies the content over, it's not live. We can then go in here. We can actually edit the calorie targets for that particular client if we want to. Then once we've done that, we can switch it so it's live for them, or we can leave it to go live at whatever date we've set inside their account. So again, lots of different options here where we can use this live feature to help drip feed out content to our clients. Now, at the start of this video, there's one more thing I wanted to mention, the difference between the content that we drip feed out here using the live feature and tracking. Now, I don't want to cover this too much inside here because it's not particularly a live feature. You will get live features when it comes to habits that you set up down here. This works in exactly the same way as we've discussed already. But these tracking items here, these have a status. It's not really live or not. It's about whether it's active or not. And all that basically means is the client can see it when they log in or they can't see it. So for example here, if you wanted to switch off the adherence chart so your client couldn't see it, you can click the drop down menu, you can click set status, and you can change that to inactive. Now you can also do that in a group setting as well. So if we're just going to take a look at the group again, we're going to use a results tracking group in this case. In the setup section, in the tracking, you can see down here we have a new member status. Activated means it's switched on. But if we hit the drop down menu here, you can see we can set status for new members on joining, and we can have it as activated, so active, deactivated, so inactive, or we can have something that says stay unchanged. All that means is when a client is added to this group, it doesn't affect any of the previous settings for that particular feature. So although that's not really a live feature as such, it works in a very similar way, so I thought it was important to include it on this video. So there you go. That's in a nutshell how the live feature works inside P Distinction, both at a client level and at a group level. I hope that gives you a good idea of how you can actually set up your content inside your P Distinction account and drip feed it out to your clients. Now, if you're not already drip feeding content out to your clients, and maybe you're giving them all in one go, I would highly recommend you go back and take a look at it again. All the data suggests that it's better to drip feed out content to your clients over time. It's going to help them absorb it and they're going to get better results. When you give people too much information too quickly, they don't absorb it and it becomes more work for you and not the best experience for your clients. So I'll definitely recommend, if you haven't already, to try this live feature and see how it actually helps you in your business and also helps your clients get better results. All right, that's it from me for now. As always, if you've got any questions, please let us know in whatever comments are around this video, wherever you're watching it. If you need any more help and support with making the most of your online fitness business, whether that's using PT Distinction or just becoming a better online personal trainer, please do get in touch with us over at PT the Ninja. We do have our Done For You service where we can help you set up all this stuff that you see here. And of course, we have our PT Ninja 101 course where we actually go through everything you've just seen on here as well, set it up and give you all the content to do it. On top of that, we also have our online personal training certification, where if you want to become a better online personal trainer or just learn how to take your skills as an in-person trainer and transfer them online, whilst also learning how to build a sustainable and scalable online fitness business, make sure you come and check out that course as well. So that's it from me, and I'll see you all for the next video.